welcome to the deep dive. You sent us quite a fascinating stack of sources this time, and they all promise something pretty remarkable, a kind of shortcut to understanding people.
Right, not exactly mind reading like in the movies, more like
Uh,
deep observation.
exactly, systematic observation. Our mission today is really to take this theory of nonverbal communication, all these hidden signals, and see if we can turn it into, an actionable skill, something you can actually use.
In every interaction, really, it governs so much.
It seems so. And our main source here, the language of body and thought, it lays it out pretty clearly right from the start.
Mhm.
It says it's not about digging up secrets, but about genuinely understanding, well, thoughts and feelings through body language, gestures, even how someone
The
speaks.
style, the tone, yeah.
And the core idea, which honestly feels a bit revolutionary when you first read it, is that people, they often reveal almost everything about themselves without needing specific words.
If we just pay attention, right? If we train ourselves to look at the whole picture, not just the verbal slice.
The whole data stream, as they put it.
Yeah, and that's the crucial pivot, isn't it? Especially for, our listeners, for you, someone who values knowledge that's both quick to get but also like thoroughly explained.
You want the depth, but also the efficiency.
Precisely. And this source emphasizes that true insight isn't some kind of party trick. It's what they call Dien Sedekna.
Which means
It translates pretty simply, but it's powerful. Deep, attentive observation. It's really the difference between just, looking at someone and actually seeing them.
okay, I like that distinction. Seeing versus looking.
And what's the payoff? What's the immediate sort of return on investment for getting good at this?
Good question. What does the source say?
Well, the initial aha moment, the big realization, is that this kind of knowledge, it can instantly strengthen your relationships, both personal and professional.
How so?
It makes your communication just way more effective. Think about negotiations, difficult conversations.
Oh, okay. Because you're picking up on things others miss.
Exactly. You move from just processing that tiny, often filtered bit, the words, to taking in the whole unfiltered picture. The body language, the tone, all of it.
So that's our goal today then, to show you how to process that whole picture. We're going way beyond just the surface chatter.
We're diving into those silent signals, the ones that often hold the real truth, the objective truth, in any conversation.
Okay, let's get into this. The first really big idea we need to unpack is what the source calls the word trap.
The word trap, yeah, that sounds about right.
We're all conditioned, aren't we, since we were kids? Listen to the words. Focus on the meaning of the words.
It's how we're taught to communicate, how school works, how most business works. Linguistic content is king.
But this source throws a major curveball at that assumption. It states, pretty bluntly actually, that only a small fraction of our communication relies on the actual words spoken.
Sometimes really small, like 7 to 10% small. It varies depending on the study, but the point is, it's minor.
7 to 10%. That's tiny. So the obvious question then is, if words are just this small fraction, where does the rest of it live?
Yeah, where's the communication actually happening? And maybe more importantly, where does the truth usually live?
Right.
It lives in what the source calls the silent majority of communication. Everything except the dictionary definition of the words.
The silent majority. I like that phrase.
It's this constant data stream, always running. And the source gives us a really useful breakdown, a list of these powerful non-verbal components, the ones that carry much more weight, more truth than the specific vocabulary someone consciously chooses.
Okay, let's list them out. What are these channels?
Well, we need to think about the different channels operating all at once. First, the really obvious visual ones. Sher kebab, facial expressions.
Okay. Smiles, frowns, that kind of thing.
Yes, but also the micro-expressions, those super fast flashes of emotion, like less than a second sometimes. They can betray a feeling before the person even knows they're feeling it, let alone decided to hide it.
Wow. Hard to control those, I imagine.
Very. Then there's Sharir Kimudra. Body posture and bearing, are they standing tall, taking up space? That usually signals confidence, right?
Or are they slumped, arms crossed?
Yeah.
Maybe defensive or uncertain or closed off?
Exactly. Are they literally closing themselves off from you or the conversation? That posture speaks volumes.
And it's not just visual, is it? There are sounds involved too, but not the words themselves.
Absolutely critical. What linguists sometimes call paralanguage. The source mentions awaska utar chadha, vocal tone, and inflection.
Ah, the classic, it's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Precisely. You can say, that sounds like a great plan, but if your voice is totally flat, monotone, low pitch, maybe trails off at the end.
It sounds anything but great. It sounds like you doubt it, or you're bored, or you just don't care.
Right, the underlying message, the real meaning, completely flips, even though the words themselves are positive. That vocal quality carries huge weight.
Okay. Facial expressions, posture, vocal tone.
Mm. And then there's a really subtle one, but the source emphasizes it. Con ki harkatin. Eye movements.
Eye movements, like avoiding eye contact means you're lying. Is it that simple?
Well, it's way more nuanced than that, thankfully. It's a whole field of study, really. But think about where someone looks when they're genuinely remembering something from the past
Okay.
versus where they look when they're, say, constructing something new in their head, like making up an excuse or even just figuring out a complex answer.
So direction matters.
Direction matters, how long they hold eye contact, whether their eyes dart around. It can indicate cognitive load, how hard their brain is working, or their emotional state, or just where their focus is. All vital data points.
Okay, so if you add all that up, face, body, voice, eyes,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the bulk of the message is. The implication seems, well, huge.
It is profound, really. If we accept this premise that the communication is skewed so heavily towards the nonverbal.
Then the truth, the real weight of truth, usually rests with these silent indicators, not the words.
And here's the kicker. The reason why these signals are generally more reliable.
Why?
They are often involuntary, purely physiological responses that bypass your conscious brain, your internal editor.
Like blushing. You can't really stop that.
Exactly like blushing. Or think about pupils dilating putlian kafelan, as the source mentions. Your pupils will widen when you see something you're genuinely interested in or something startling, or even just when your brain is working really hard on a problem.
You can't fake pupil dilation.
Nope. Or your posture shifting instinctively if you feel suddenly uncomfortable and threatened. These are biological responses, completely unfiltered. That makes them dramatically more reliable than words, which are always filtered, polished, chosen, edited by our conscious mind, trying to manage how we're perceived.
So this really highlights a fundamental flaw in how most of us communicate, or at least how we listen.
We are linguistically obsessed, trained from day one to focus only on the words, the grammar, the logic.
And in doing that, we miss the richer, unfiltered stuff. The body language, the tone, the stream that's actually telling the real story.
Pretty much. If we only listen to the words, it's like we're operating with maybe, 10% of the information available?
Yeah.
We're effectively ignoring the 90% that often matters most.
That's a sobering thought. It's like trying to understand a movie with the sound off. Or maybe just reading the subtitles without seeing the actors.
That's a great analogy. It's like reading a highly sanitized press release versus watching the unedited footage of the CEO delivering that statement, maybe sweating slightly or shifting their weight.
The body language provides the crucial context, the footnotes.
Exactly. The body is the critical footnote that either confirms the main text or completely contradicts it. And as attentive observers, as Dhyan Sidikna practitioners, we have to train ourselves to read those footnotes first.
Okay, so we know where to look now beyond the words, at the body, the voice, the eyes. Now, how do we actually, decode it? How do we get good at spotting the important stuff?
Right. This is where we move from just knowing that it happens to understanding how to see it. Spotting the tells, as gamblers might say.
And key idea 3 in our source material really focuses on this, doesn't it? It's about chipi hui plavanain pahachana, recognizing hidden emotions.
Precisely. It's about tuning into those tiny signals, the micro behaviors, that act like leakage. They betray what someone's truly feeling, even if they're actively trying to hide it.
Okay, so give us some specifics. What are these leakage cues the source highlights? Let's start with maybe the more obvious ones.
Well, a classic one is crossing or folding the arms half balandana.
Right. Everyone knows that one. Means they're closed off, defensive.
It can mean that, yeah. Sometimes it's just comfortable for the person, so context is key. But if it happens suddenly, right when you ask a tough question or raise a point of disagreement,
Then it's likely a barrier, a literal physical closing off.
it often is a protective shield against what's being said or against you. But the real gold mine is in the less obvious cues, the things the speaker has almost zero conscious control over.
Like the pupil dilation we mentioned. Berlioz Kafelna.
Exactly. That's not just some interesting biological fact. It's a powerful tool for insight. Let's say someone is verbally trashing an idea. Oh, I hate that concept. Terrible idea.
Okay.
But when you mention one specific, maybe exciting feature of that concept, you notice their pupils just widen slightly for a moment.
Ah, so their body is saying, ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
even while their mouth is saying, no way.
You got it. You're seeing direct physiological evidence of high internal engagement or maybe interest that completely overrides their spoken dismissal. Their brain is either processing it intensely high cognitive load or reacting positively, maybe with curiosity. Neither of those aligns with the word hate.
That's fascinating. It's a direct conflict between the conscious verbal response and the body's honest biological reaction.
Bingo. And think about something even more fundamental. Breathing. Sans lennikigati changes in breathing rate.
How does that play out?
Well, when someone is stressed or maybe telling a lie or even just trying really hard to suppress a strong emotion like anger or sadness, their breathing often changes. It might become shallower, quicker, or sometimes they might even hold their breath for a split second right before they give you a carefully constructed answer.
Like they're bracing themselves.
Kind of. It's the sympathetic nervous system kicking in the fight or flight response, even if the threat is just a difficult question or an uncomfortable truth.
So shallow, rapid breathing signals stress or arousal.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
And linked to that, their vocal pitch might rise slightly too, because the shallow breath pushes the words out faster. So if you notice a sudden shift, maybe a tiny gasp for air, or a sudden rush of words, or even a brief pause where their chest just stops moving for a beat.
Yeah, you've hit a nerve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Regardless of how calm or collected their actual words might sound, their body just told you that the topic is sensitive, it's loaded somehow.
This level of observation, it leads us right to what feels like the core principle of this whole deep dive. The source calls it the conflict rule.
Ah, yes, the conflict rule. Absolutely central.
And it states, pretty unequivocally, when the words and the body language contradict each other.
The body almost always tells the truth. Trust the body. That's the fundamental rule of attentive observation.
Okay, but let's dig into the why. Why is the body the more reliable source in that conflict? What's the mechanism?
It really boils down to timing and cognitive resources. Think about it. Telling a lie or actively concealing a strong emotion takes a lot of mental effort.
Right. You have to suppress the truth, invent the alternative, and monitor yourself to make sure you're not giving it away.
Exactly. It's complex cognitive work. But the body, it reacts honestly and often instantaneously to whatever's happening, a perceived threat, something interesting, a surprise. It reacts before that whole complex mental machinery of deception or suppression can fully kick in and build the defenses.
So truth is fast and cheap, physiologically speaking.
Pretty much. While deception is slow and expensive in terms of brain power.
Give me an example of that mismatch.
Okay, someone says, no, I'm perfectly happy with that decision, but as they say it, maybe their foot starts tapping nervously under the table, or they suddenly start fiddling with their watch, or picking lint off their jacket, what we call displacement activities.
Little nervous habits that leak out.
Right. There's a clear mismatch. The words say happy, but the body is screaming nervous energy or discomfort. The conscious filter, the editor, just failed to catch that physical tell in time.
So for you, the listener, the practical takeaway here is really critical, isn't it? You have to stop just passively accepting the words you hear.
Absolutely. You need to become an active observer, constantly scanning for these inconsistencies. Train yourself to notice that split-second hesitation before an answer, or the smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes.
The fake smile, yeah. The Duchenne smile involves the eye muscles crinkling.
Exactly. If that crinkle isn't there, the positive words might be forced. Or notice if someone physically pulls their shoulders in, makes themselves smaller, right when you ask a challenging question.
These aren't just random tics.
No. These inconsistencies aren't errors in communication. They are signposts. They point directly towards the hidden truth, the underlying emotion, the thing they aren't saying.
It forces you to become like a critical editor of reality in real time.
Yeah.
Constantly weighing the visual, the auditory against the purely verbal content.
It's an ongoing process of synthesis. You're putting all the pieces together to get the real picture.
Okay, so we've learned how to spot the inconsistencies, how to read the silent signals, how to identify potential conflict between words and body. Now what? How do we use this?
Right, because just analyzing people isn't the end goal, is it? We need to transition from passive analysis to proactive application. How does this deep observation help us build better relationships, communicate more effectively?
This brings us to key idea 2 from the source, Rishte or Judav Banana, building relationships and connection.
Exactly. Once you start observing more accurately, you gain this amazing ability to use that knowledge proactively to actually build rapport faster and more genuinely.
How does that work? What's the technique?
The source highlights a key technique known as matching or mirroring. The Hindi term used is melbithana.
Matching or mirroring, so like copying the other person.
Well, subtly. We're not talking about creepy mimicry or caricature. It's about subtly, almost unconsciously, adopting aspects of the other person's nonverbal behavior.
Such as?
Maybe their posture, if they lean forward slightly, you might lean forward too. Or the tilt of their head, even their speaking pace or rhythm.
Okay, so it's about creating a kind of physical synchrony.
Precisely. Isomorphism is a good word for it, creating a shared physical reality, subtly. If they speak really slowly and deliberately, you might consciously slow down your own natural tendency to speak quickly. You match their cadence.
And why does this work? What does it achieve?
This technique, and this is crucial when it's done subtly and authentically, not obviously, it has a powerful psychological effect. It builds harasabata. It builds deep trust and rapport.
How? Does the other person notice you doing it?
Usually not consciously. Their conscious mind probably won't register, hey, they just crossed their legs the same way I did. But their subconscious, it picks up on it. It gets a signal. This person is like me, or this person is in sync with me. They're on my wavelength.
Ah, so it bypasses the conscious filters again.
Right. And that feeling of unconscious alignment, that sense of similarity and being in sync, it creates an immediate feeling of safety, of common ground, of connection. And that opens the door for much more genuine, unguarded communication.
It's like creating an unconscious rhythm between two people. That's really interesting.
It is. But mirroring is kind of the entry point, the technique. It's not the whole story for building genuine connection.
What else is needed?
The source emphasizes two other essential ingredients. These move beyond just behavioral tricks and focus more on your internal state, your disposition towards the other person.
Okay, what are they?
They're really the twin pillars of any truly authentic relationship. The first is sustained empathy, sahanubhuti.
Empathy. Understanding how they feel.
Yes, but deeper than just intellectual understanding, deeper than just saying, oh, I get it. It's about genuinely trying to feel with them, to share or at least deeply acknowledge the emotion they're experiencing, which, crucially, you're picking up from their nonverbal cues as much as their words.
So if their posture is closed and defensive, your empathy needs to connect with that feeling of defensiveness, not just the polite words they might be saying.
Exactly. You're responding to the whole person, the felt reality. And the second pillar is focused, attentive listening, dhyansasana.
Which we talked about earlier with Dhyansadekna, attentive observation.
Yes, but applied specifically to listening. It's far more than just being quiet while they talk, waiting for your turn.
What does it involve?
It means using all those observation skills we discussed, noticing the shifts in breathing, the eye movements, the fidgeting, the vocal tone, to listen for the meaning behind the words, listening for the emotion, the hesitation, the unsaid things, and then maybe reflecting that back to them gently, validating the entire package, the words and the nonverbal signals.
So you're showing them you hear not just their words, but you see their feelings too.
Precisely. These aren't just nice social skills, They are powerful confirmation mechanisms. When you show real empathy, driven by accurate observation, and you truly listen attentively to the whole message, you communicate to the other person. I see you. I understand you. Not just, I hear your words.
And that feeling of being truly seen and understood.
That's what builds deep trust. That's what deepens relationships, makes people feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to share what they really think and feel.
Okay, this is clearly a very powerful set of skills, which naturally leads us to the ethical side of things. Key idea 5 in the source talks about the practical utility Vyavaharik upayog.
Yes, the practical uses are undeniable. This knowledge is incredibly useful in relationships, sure, but also in sales, in negotiations, in any kind of important discussion or debate bait cheat.
It gives you an edge.
It absolutely does. But, and this is a huge but, we have to be really clear about the ethical boundary the source draws. Very important.
Which is?
The goal, the only acceptable goal of developing this deep understanding is better communication, deeper connection, mutual understanding. It is absolutely not about manipulation, Shached.
Right. You're gaining insight, not ammunition.
Perfectly put. You're acquiring a powerful tool, yes. But that tool is for building bridges, for creating synergy, for ensuring clarity. It's not for exploiting someone's hidden anxieties or tricking them into something that isn't in their interest.
Because once you can read someone that deeply, know their true feelings beneath the surface,
you inherently have leverage, a kind of informational advantage. The source really stresses the profound responsibility that comes with that knowledge.
So the ethical use means always aiming to improve the dialogue itself, Make it more honest, more effective for both sides.
Exactly. It's about being a better, more perceptive communication partner, not a covert operator pulling strings. Using insight to clarify, not to deceive or control.
All right, so we've gone from observing to spotting conflict to using observation to build trust and connection ethically. Now let's move to maybe the most advanced application, influence and effective communication. This is key idea 4.
Right. Moving from just understanding to actually shaping the communication effectively based on that understanding.
Once you've decoded someone's silent language, their nonverbal cues,
Yeah.
the source suggests you gain a significant, well, strategic advantage in how you communicate back.
Yes, the power dynamic definitely shifts because you have a much clearer picture of the person in front of you. You understand their internal framework, maybe their underlying concerns, their points of excitement or resistance, all gleaned from those nonverbal signals we've been talking about.
So, for example, if you notice someone's body language consistently shows tension or anxiety whenever money or budget is mentioned,
You wouldn't just ignore that and keep pushing the features and benefits in a general way. No, you'd immediately adjust your message. You directly address that perceived anxiety. Maybe you'd emphasize cost savings or return on investment or flexible payment options. You tailor your argument to fit the listener's pre-existing emotional context, the one their body language revealed.
so you're placing your message inside a frame they're already receptive to.
Exactly. It's truly proactive communication. You're not just reacting to their words, you're responding to their underlying psychological reality, the one you observed.
Can you give another example?
Sure. Let's say your observation tells you the person you're talking to is highly analytical. Maybe they have very controlled posture, they lean back a bit, their language is precise, they don't show much emotion facially.
Okay, the logical type.
Right. So you know instantly that trying to persuade them with a big emotional pitch, lots of energy, abstract visions, it's going to fall completely flat. It won't resonate
So you have to shift your style.
immediately. You switch to providing clear facts, data, logical sequences, maybe detailed evidence or justifications. You meet them on their preferred ground, the analytical ground, their nonverbal cues signal.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the source mentions some specific techniques for influencing people more naturally. Sahaj Roop se prabhavit karti hain. What are those?
It highlights 3 main ones: suggestion, framing, and anchoring. And these really rely heavily on the nonverbal data you've gathered beforehand.
Okay, let's break those down. Suggestion first. Is this like hypnotism?
Haha. No, not quite. It's much more subtle. It's about planting ideas, often nonverbally or indirectly, that the listener's subconscious might pick up on before their critical conscious mind puts up barriers.
How does observation help with that?
Because you understand their emotional baseline from their body language. You know what they fear or what excites them or what they value. So you know exactly what kind of suggestion, maybe a positive one hinting at success or a cautionary one hinting at risk, will actually land effectively. It's like tailoring the seed you plant to the specific soil you've already analyzed.
Okay. Planting seeds. What about framing?
Framing is hugely strategic. It's all about context. It's how you package the information you present, how you build the mental box around it.
Can we use the budget anxiety example again?
Perfect. So, someone's anxious about cost. Instead of framing a high price as simply a necessary cost or expense, which just reinforces their anxiety.
You reframe it.
Exactly. You might frame it as an investment that yields long-term savings, or increases efficiency, or reduces future risk. The objective number might be the same, but the frame you put around it completely changes how they perceive it emotionally and cognitively. You're adjusting the lens through which they see the facts.
That's clever. Okay, and the third one was anchoring.
Anchoring. This is a classic technique often used in negotiation for managing expectations. It involves setting a reference point and anchor early on, which then influences how subsequent information is judged.
How does it work?
Well, let's say you need someone to agree to something moderately difficult but reasonable. You could start by anchoring them with a much more extreme or demanding request first, something you know they'll likely refuse. Then, when you present your actual, more reasonable request, it suddenly seems much less daunting, much more acceptable by comparison to that initial anchor. You've strategically shifted their perception of what's reasonable by setting that high initial benchmark.
So you anchor their expectations high, making the real goal seem easier.
That's the idea. And the key thing about all these techniques, suggestion, framing, anchoring, is why they work so well when informed by observation.
Why?
Because they tend to bypass the purely logical, word-based processing part of the brain. They communicate more directly on those deeper emotional and psychological channels, the very channels your nonverbal observations have already given you access to.
So it connects back the observations from section 2.
Absolutely. When you use anchoring based on insights you gain from spotting their chipi hui pavanain, their hidden emotions, or when you frame your argument specifically to address an anxiety you saw in their posture, your influence becomes much more targeted, much more effective. It resonates because it's customized to their observed reality.
It creates this uh, a seamless loop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Observe the true signals. Match or empathize to build trust. Frame your message according to those observed truths.
Exactly. It becomes a very fluid, almost intuitive process. And that's why the source says it influences naturally. The other person doesn't feel manipulated, they feel understood.
Yeah.
Because they feel understood, they become much more receptive to what you have to say.
It really transforms communication from just throwing words back and forth
Into a dynamic, synchronized exchange. An exchange of energy, posture, rhythm, emotion, and ultimately a much deeper, more accurate level of shared meaning. A truly holistic approach. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow. We have definitely covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Uh-huh.
Really fascinating stuff. We started with this almost sci-fi idea of reading minds.
Right, the shortcut idea.
Yeah. And we've landed on something much more practical, but maybe just as powerful. It's really about upgrading our built-in observation skills, moving from just casual looking to that attentive observation tianzidekna.
Becoming a skilled observer of the human condition, really.
And the core takeaway, the most actionable insight for you, the listener, seems to be this. You now have a much better framework for spotting those conflicts, for knowing when you can trust the words someone uses.
And when you probably need to pay more attention to the involuntary truth being told by their body, their voice, their eyes, understanding that need to look beyond just the script.
Assessing the whole data stream.
Exactly. And ultimately, mastering this silent language, it really does transform your interactions. Understanding these subtle cues, these gestures, it leads directly to stronger, more trusting relationships.
And just more effective conversations, more effective dialogue in pretty much every part of life, wouldn't you say?
Without a doubt, it turns communication from what can sometimes feel like a flawed transaction full of misunderstandings into a much more informed, synchronized, and authentic exchange.
But there's that
Yeah.
responsibility aspect we touched on earlier.
Ah, yes. The final thought. This increased ability to observe, to connect based on those observations, and potentially to influence, it does give you a form of power, an advantage. So the final question, the provocative thought maybe for you to chew on, is this. If knowing body language gives you this influence, this strategic edge, how do you personally ensure that your improved skills always stay focused on that goal of better dialogue?
A mutual understanding, synergy.
Right. How do you make sure it doesn't slip into just leveraging those insights for your own personal gain, maybe even manipulation, however unintentional? Where is that line for you?
That commitment to using this deep understanding ethically.
It might be the most critical skill of all to cultivate alongside the observation itself. It's the responsibility that comes with seeing more clearly.
That is a wonderful and, yeah, crucial challenge to end with. Thank you for unpacking all of that. And thank you, our listener, for sharing these sources with us.
Yeah.
We really hope this deep dive helps you start to see the world and the people in it with new, sharper eyes.
Maybe starting with your very next conversation. Until next time.